The global motorcycle market is undergoing a structural shift. Manufacturers are no longer competing purely on horsepower figures or lap times. They are competing on something far more difficult to engineer: real-world relevance. In 2025, the rider's problem isn't a shortage of options. It's a crisis of clarity. Showroom floors are crowded with machines that look extraordinary on spec sheets and disappoint on the road. Marketing has outpaced engineering. Hype has outpaced honesty. This investigation cuts through that noise. Over the course of this report, we examined 7 motorcycles across 5 market segments: middleweight nakeds, adventure tours, street fighters, and accessible entry points into serious performance. We didn't test these bikes on closed circuits. We evaluated them where it actually matters: in traffic, on imperfect tarmac, across long miles, and in the hands of riders with real lives and finite budgets. The 7 machines under the microscope are the Honda CB750 Hornet, the Yamaha MT-09, the Kawasaki Z900, the Ducati Multistrada V4 S, the BMW R1300 GS, the Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450, and the Triumph Speed 400. Each one represents something specific about where motorcycling is heading. Some will surprise you. At least one will challenge assumptions you've held for years. If you've been waiting for an honest, unsponsored breakdown of the best motorcycles money can buy right now, this is it. Subscribe now, because this investigation is only the beginning. The rankings start here. An engine is not a number. It is a personality. And in 2025, the gap between engines that merely perform and engines that communicate has never been more revealing. Start with the Yamaha MT-09. Its 890 cubic centimeters inline triple is the most characterful power plant in this entire lineup. It doesn't deliver power like a switch being flipped. It builds like a crescendo, each rev adding urgency, texture, and intent. Yamaha's crossplane concept gives the MT-09 a firing interval that feels almost biological. It breathes differently from anything with 4 cylinders. That is not an accident. It is a deliberate engineering philosophy. The Kawasaki Z900 takes a different approach. Its 948 cubic centimeters inline 4 is precise, linear, and relentless, a machine that rewards mechanical sympathy over instinct. Where the MT-09 provokes, the Z900 disciplines. Power delivery is clean across the entire rev range, making it deceptively fast in real-world conditions where short bursts of acceleration matter more than peak horsepower. The Honda CB750 Hornet's 755 cubic centimeters parallel twin operates on a different frequency entirely. Honda engineered this motor for torque density over outright aggression. It pulls hard from low revs, making urban riding feel effortless without ever demanding the rider work for it. It is the engine equivalent of a precision instrument, never flashy, never uncertain. Then there is the Ducati Multistrada V4 S. Its 1,158 cubic centimeters Gran Turismo V4 is in a separate conversation altogether. This engine produces 170 horsepower and behaves, in its most civilized mode, like a refined long-distance partner. Switch modes, and it transforms entirely. The engineering achievement here is not the power, it is the range. The BMW R1300 GS brings its trademark boxer twin, now displacing 1,300 cubic centimeters and producing a genuine step forward in refinement over its predecessor. Torque arrives at just 6,500 revolutions per minute, and the shift-cam variable valve timing system ensures the power curve feels muscular without ever becoming hostile, critical for a machine that may spend as much time loaded with luggage on a mountain pass as it does on a Sunday morning run. The Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 and Triumph Speed 400 occupy the accessible end of the spectrum. Both use single-cylinder architecture. The Guerrilla's 452 cubic centimeters unit and Triumph's 398 cubic centimeters motor, but neither feels like a compromise. The Speed 400 in particular punches with a confidence that belies its displacement. It revs with an eagerness that larger, heavier engines simply cannot replicate. 7 engines. 7 distinct philosophies. The question is not which produces the most power. The question is which engine suits the life you actually live. A motorcycle can have a flawless engine and still destroy you over distance. Ergonomics are not a comfort feature. They are a safety variable. Fatigue distorts reaction time. Poor posture compresses the spine. The wrong foot peg position loads the knees at precisely the angle that causes long-term damage. These are not minor inconveniences. They are engineering decisions with physical consequences. The BMW R1300 GS understands this better than any machine in this lineup. Its riding triangle, the geometric relationship between seat, bars, and pegs, has been refined across decades of real-world feedback. The upright position distributes rider weight across the entire body, not just the wrists and lower back. On a 6-hour ride, that difference is not marginal. It is the difference between arriving and enduring. The Ducati Multistrada V4 S makes a similar promise and largely delivers it. The adjustable seat height, the wide, commanding handlebar sweep, and the generous legroom combine to create a position that feels surprisingly natural for a machine of this performance capability. Where it concedes ground is in wind protection at sustained motorway speeds. The fairing works hard, but riders above 6 feet will feel turbulence at the helmet line. The Yamaha MT-09 makes no pretense of long-haul comfort. It is a naked street fighter, and its ergonomics are engineered for aggression over endurance. The slightly forward lean keeps the rider engaged and alert, ideal for urban environments and spirited weekend rides. Extend that posture beyond 3 hours, and the wrists begin to file a formal complaint. This is not a flaw. It is a design declaration. The Kawasaki Z900 sits in a more neutral position than the MT-09, offering a modest improvement in all-day wearability without abandoning the performance-forward stance that defines the naked segment. It is the most ergonomically balanced street fighter in this group, a machine that can credibly manage a long motorway transfer without requiring the rider to stop every 90 minutes. The Honda CB750 Hornet positions its rider with characteristic Honda pragmatism. Upright, relaxed, unhurried. The seat foam density is well judged for the first 2 hours. Beyond that, some riders will find it firmer than expected for a machine marketed at everyday usability. An aftermarket seat upgrade is a near-universal recommendation among long-term owners. The Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 and Triumph Speed 400 both adopt a relaxed, flat-track-inspired posture. Low seat heights. The Guerrilla sits at just 790 millimeters, the Speed 400 at 800 millimeters, make them immediately accessible to a wider range of riders. Neither is designed for extended highway kilometers, but both reward urban commuters and weekend riders with a riding position that feels natural within the first 5 minutes, not the first 500 miles. Ergonomics tell you who a manufacturer believes is sitting on their machine. These 7 bikes reveal 7 very different answers to that question. Technology on a motorcycle is only valuable if it disappears when you don't need it and intervenes precisely when you do. In 2025, the industry has not universally mastered that balance. Some manufacturers have built genuine electronic safety nets. Others have built distraction systems dressed in the language of innovation. The difference matters enormously when the road turns unpredictable. The Ducati Multistrada V4 S carries the most sophisticated electronic package in this entire investigation. Cornering ABS, adaptive cruise control, front and rear radar, a 6-axis IMU, and Ducati's vehicle observer system, which predicts lean angle behavior in real time, represent a genuinely impressive engineering achievement. But that sophistication comes with a menu architecture so deep that accessing ride mode adjustments mid-journey requires a level of familiarity that takes weeks to build. For riders who invest that time, the reward is exceptional. For those who don't, much of the technology remains permanently buried. The BMW R1300 GS takes a more considered approach to interface design. Its 10.25-inch TFT display and updated iDrive controller are the most intuitive in the premium segment. Connectivity, navigation, and ride mode switching feel genuinely integrated rather than bolted on. The adaptive route guidance system, which adjusts navigation suggestions based on riding style, is one of the few pieces of motorcycle technology in 2025 that genuinely earns its complexity. The Yamaha MT-09's electronics tell a different story. Its 6-axis IMU, slide control, and lift control system are expertly calibrated, unobtrusive when conditions are clean, decisive when they deteriorate. Where Yamaha concedes ground is in its TFT display, which remains one of the least legible screens in direct sunlight across the middleweight segment. A meaningful oversight on a machine otherwise defined by precision. The Kawasaki Z900 offers a confident but deliberately stripped-back electronics package. Traction control, ABS, and 3 riding modes cover the essentials without overwhelming the rider. This restraint is both its strength and its limitation. Riders who want sophisticated cornering ABS or IMU-based intervention will need to look elsewhere. Riders who distrust electronic complexity will find the Z900's approach quietly reassuring. The Honda CB750 Hornet sits in similar territory, Honda's 5-axis IMU feeds competent cornering ABS and wheelie control, but the system lacks the granular adjustability of its European competitors. Honda's philosophy here is deliberate. Make the safety net invisible, not configurable. For most riders, in most conditions, that philosophy is exactly right. The Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 and Triumph Speed 400 operate with appropriately scaled technology. Dual-channel ABS on both machines handles the safety fundamentals. The Speed 400 adds a more refined switchable traction control system, a meaningful inclusion at its price point that no direct competitor currently matches. The Guerrilla's technology story is simpler, but its reliability record in this early ownership period has been stronger than many predicted for a new platform. Every machine in this lineup has made a technological trade-off. The critical question is not which bike has the most technology. It is which bike's trade-offs you can live with. Performance on a test route is one data point. The true measure of a motorcycle is what it costs you financially, physically, and logistically to own it across 3 years and 30,000 kilometers. That is the calculation most buyers never make before signing a purchase agreement. This investigation made it for them. Begin with the machine that dominates this category, without contest. The Honda CB750 Hornet carries Honda's most formidable asset onto every road it travels, a reliability record built across decades of parallel twin development. Its service intervals stretch to 12,000 kilometers. Its parts availability is broad across every major market, and independent workshop data consistently places Honda's middleweight platform among the lowest unscheduled maintenance rates in the segment. For riders who want performance without an anxious relationship with their dealer service department, this is the most honest choice in the lineup. The Triumph Speed 400 and Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 both benefit from a shared platform developed with long-term accessibility as a stated priority. Triumph's global service network and Royal Enfield's aggressive parts pricing make both machines genuinely affordable to maintain outside of premium urban markets. Early ownership data suggests both engines are settling into strong reliability trajectories, though the Guerrilla 450, as the newer platform, carries slightly more uncertainty over extended high-mileage use. The Kawasaki Z900's ownership reality is straightforward. It is not cheap to service, but it is predictable. Scheduled maintenance costs sit comfortably within segment norms, and the inline-four's fundamental engineering simplicity means independent mechanics can work on it without specialized diagnostic equipment. Fuel consumption averages between 5.5 and 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers in real-world mixed riding, competitive for its displacement class and sufficient for a practical range of approximately 280 kilometers per tank. The Yamaha MT-09 presents a more nuanced ownership picture. Its performance credentials are beyond question, but the CP3 Triple requires more attentive maintenance scheduling than its rivals, particularly around valve clearance checks, which arrive sooner and demand more labor time than comparable parallel twin platforms. Riders who stay current with service intervals will experience few issues. Riders who don't will encounter problems that are entirely preventable. The BMW R1300 GS occupies a category of its own in terms of ownership cost. Annual service costs for the GS regularly exceed those of every other machine in this lineup, sometimes significantly. Its TFT electronics, radar systems, and semi-active suspension all represent potential long-term cost exposure once warranty periods expire. The counterargument is equally valid. BMW's build quality and long-term resale values consistently outperform the segment average, meaning the total cost of ownership calculation is more complex than a service invoice alone suggests. The Ducati Multistrada V4 S demands the most from its owner, financially and attentively. Desmodromic valve service, which remains a fundamental requirement of Ducati's V4 architecture, is a substantial scheduled cost that buyers must budget for explicitly. The trade-off is a machine of extraordinary capability and a brand residual value that remains among the strongest in the premium segment. This is not a motorcycle for passive ownership. It rewards riders who engage with it fully and budget for it honestly. The owner persona question answers itself across these 7 machines. The CB750 Hornet belongs to the pragmatist. The GS belongs to the committed long-distance traveler. The Multistrada belongs to the enthusiast who treats maintenance as part of the relationship. The Speed 400 and Guerrilla belong to the rider entering serious motorcycling for the first time, or returning to it with clearer priorities than before. Knowing which rider you are is not a minor detail. It is the entire decision. 7 motorcycles. 7 engineering philosophies. 7 different answers to the same fundamental question. What does real-world performance actually mean in 2025? This investigation has moved through engines, ergonomics, electronics, and ownership economics. What emerges is not a simple ranked list. What emerges is a map, and where you sit on that map determines which machine belongs under you. Here is the honest verdict. The Triumph Speed 400 and Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 represent the most significant value propositions in this entire lineup. For riders entering the serious performance conversation for the first time, neither machine asks you to compromise on experience in exchange for accessibility. They simply redefine where the entry point sits. In a market inflated by complexity and cost, that matters more than the industry has yet acknowledged. The Honda CB750 Hornet and Kawasaki Z900 occupy the most rational middle ground available in 2025. They are machines built by manufacturers who understand that the average rider spends more time in traffic and on imperfect roads than on mountain passes. They do not demand worship. They deliver results. For the rider who values consistency over theater, this is where the investigation ends. The Yamaha MT-09 stands alone as the purest expression of rider engagement in this group. It is not the most comfortable, not the most technologically sophisticated, and not the most practical. It is, however, the machine most likely to make you feel something on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday evening. For a specific type of rider, that is worth every trade-off the MT-09 demands. The BMW R1300 GS and Ducati Multistrada V4 S operate in a category where performance and financial commitment are inseparable. Both machines deliver experiences that no middleweight can replicate. Both will cost you more to own than their purchase price initially suggests. The question is not whether they're worth it. The question is whether you are ready to commit to what they ask of you, in budget, in attention, and in riding ambition. Two scenarios now present themselves. The first, you prioritize real-world usability, long-term ownership confidence, and value retention. In that case, the Honda CB750 Hornet is the most complete motorcycle in this investigation. It wins not through drama, but through the quiet accumulation of every correct decision a manufacturer can make. The second, you prioritize the depth of the riding experience above all other variables, and you are prepared to meet the machine on its own terms. In that case, the Ducati Multistrada V4 S or the Yamaha MT-09, depending on your appetite for comfort versus aggression, will deliver an ownership experience that no rational cost-benefit analysis can fully capture. The best motorcycle to buy in 2025 is not the one with the longest specification list. It is the one that still makes sense to you on a cold morning 3 years from now, when the novelty is gone and only the machine remains. Choose carefully. The road is long, and it has no interest in your regrets.